Welcome back to another part of this F1 25 My Team Career Mode. This is part number 37 today for this Spanish Grand Prix in Season 3, off the back of a comeback and a half as we went down to last place in Imola, driving as Tim Tramnitz, and we had to work very hard all race long just to recover up to a best of P4 as the two Ferraris were a bit too quick for us, and Ollie Behrman, well, his AI was too quick for everyone. Domination, nearly 14 seconds ahead of second place. A real impressive showing for our 81 rated driver on the other side of the garage, and I think we did Tramnitz justice by recovering that well. Obviously a mistake, which it happens sometimes, you just have to get through it and, you know, move on. So we do move on, and we carry on with bringing durability upgrades to the car. We've actually got the breakthrough HQ facility upgrade coming in, actually. So yeah, we're, you know, in a shock turn of events, all our focus is on the durability side of the car, because there's nothing really left to do on the actual performance side with the engine, the aero, and the chassis. Technically, there are some brake upgrades, but I refuse to make those ones because I just feel like they make the car feel 10 times worse. And we're obviously still continuing to try and spend all of this. I feel like we've been spending money everywhere, every episode, and we're still over $50 million. Like, maybe in a future season when we, you know, go for a big name signing, maybe that's where we'll be spending most of our money, I guess, I suppose. But let me know in the comments below, guys. Are you also facing the same thing in your careers where you basically just have too much money to even know what to do with it? Basically, is that durability breakthrough upgrade does come through on the facility, so now we can make some last, you know, upgrades, you know, some extra ones on the durability side of things, and that'll be important for the ICE, because that's been a big area where I want to try and improve the durability to try and give parity between our two drivers of Behrman and Tramnitz as we traverse this season that has been going so well. But maybe this is the beginning of a slightly more competitive field behind us, as Mercedes did actually bring upgrades at Imola. So no wonder Sainz actually gave us a much more thorough fight, remember, when we were looking to overtake him. So Mercedes bring upgrades last episode, and then this is the most up-to-date version of the performance comparison. So this is how it's going to be going into this Spanish Grand Prix. For the very first time, we are not second on paper on the R&D performance comparison. Mercedes are a sliver ahead of us, so that might just bring them into play, and it might be three teams now vying for the top three positions, with Ferrari and ourselves joined by the silver arrows of Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. Of course, Red Bull have still been there or thereabouts thanks to Max Verstappen. Piastri's struggling a little bit at the start of this season, so this is going to be quite interesting, actually. The first time where there might be more than just the scarlet red cars to worry about. We are going to swap over, of course, and drive as Ollie Behrman this time, as we keep things fair and square between our two drivers, swapping every other race so far. Let's go into the race weekend.
Hello everyone, it is a track the drivers know oh so well. It is qualifying in Barcelona for the Spanish Grand Prix.
Just like in Imola, it's a little bit doom and gloom and overcast here on Saturday, and this time the rain is actually going to be on its way. It actually might join us right at the end of Q1, in fact, and according to the forecast I saw in the menu options before we loaded in here, could get to heavy rain, in fact, by Q3, so let's watch out for that. That might be advantage to the AI, to Ferrari, to Mercedes, so that is going to be a big question mark. First and foremost, though, just trying to get through into Q2. Little bit of traffic, and also the car feeling a little bit on edge around Catalonia. Maybe the lower temperatures as the clouds are over, and so track temps maybe a little bit lower than you'd want exactly, but I think we should still, you know, be a formality of getting through into the second part of qualifying. But let's see who's looking quick. Let's see if the Mercedes are actually looking a bit quicker compared to previous weekends. No, not really. I mean, Lando just in the top 12. I mean, it's still Ferrari looking up there. Verstappen again dragging the Red Bull up. And down below in the drop zone, I mean, it's a howler for Jack Doohan, last place in the Renault. And Franco Colapinto out in the Aston Martin Honda as we now progress into Q2. And the rain has indeed joined us. It is intermediate conditions right now. Doesn't look that wet. You know, you got a few little, you know, standing puddles forming here and there off the racing line. The droplets of rain on the camera, but it's not too disastrous, and the car is feeling okay. Obviously a bit slower than we just experienced in Q1, but not like a handful. You know, we're not having to dance the car around a lot of these corners. A little bit wayward through that last sector, but that was more because of the curb and maybe just an inkling of the rain getting a little bit heavier in that last corner, because there was a bit of a snap at mid-apex. And we're up into P6 then. Tramnitz joins us in P7, and now you can see the night and day difference from that first flyer to the second flyer. So the rain really is just coming down harder and harder now, and we are so slow that we may as well have aborted this. I don't know why in hindsight I bothered to even continue this lap and just finish it, because clearly the rain was just too much now for these Inters to go any quicker. And so we are going to remain in P6, Tramnitz P7, but that also means, look at the top left, the likes of Marty in the Haas might get through into the top 10 shootout. That's going to be a big shock. And there you have it then. I mean, it's really not the most ideal qualifying that Carlos Sainz, one of the home favourites, would have wanted in the upgraded Mercedes. He is knocked out. His teammates through, though, in third place. Both Ferraris, both of us, of course. One Williams, both Haas. That's the big thing here. Marty, the other Spanish driver now on this grid, into the top 10 shootout. I mean, out of Marty, Sainz, and Alonso, that wouldn't have been the Spanish driver I would have picked to be through into the top 10 final qualifying session here. And then also, very quietly, an absolute disaster class for McLaren there with Lance Stroll and Leclerc. I mean, Leclerc, what happened? He's even lower than Stroll there, P16. So the reigning champion, you know, the season just continues to disappoint, moving away from Ferrari, maybe not out of his own choice, of course, with Ferrari needing to cut costs. You know, they spent too much money on last year's car to build this rocket ship for, you know, two different drivers now, basically. And Leclerc will just be feeling that pain more and more and more, basically. And he's almost screaming out to be saved, in a way, from some of the other teams that are doing a better job, I suppose. Even Haas would be a better car, maybe, in this particular context and race weekend, as now you can see we swapped over to the full wet tyres. The blue wall, the spray coming off thick and fast as Lando Norris sets an early time and marker for everyone to try and aim for. It's very overcast, but you got to say there's still quite a dry line, you know. It's significantly wetter offline. So at this point in time, we're feeling all right on the full wets, but I thought it kind of almost looks like Inters, even though the intermediates were so slow at the end of Q2. That was just because it was relative to a track that was still half maybe dry, just getting the rain. At this point, we're P4. We've actually gone slower than our AI teammates, Tramnitz, and we know the AI have an advantage in the wet. So I'm always thinking of ways of, oh, how could we, you know, level this up? How could we maybe get an advantage of some kind? Now, you might remember last season, I think it was Silverstone, I wanted to do something like this where I maybe swapped to the Inters, because looking at this now, here at this Spanish Grand Prix, this session, I think it's dry enough for Inters.
With conditions as they are, I'd suggest you take a set of full wets.
And on cue, Mark, my engineer, completely says the opposite. He thinks it's full wets. I genuinely think we can go quicker on intermediates. You know, we've seen this in real life. In real life, the Inters have always been the better choice, the choice that all the drivers and teams want to make. You know, the wet tyres seem pretty useless for the last couple of years in Formula 1. And I think that's simulated in the game somewhat, because I think the Inters will be better around here. You know, on that flying lap, that first lap in Q3, yeah, sure, it was really wet offline. But on the racing line, it looked as dry as it was, or just like, you know, slightly damp as it was at the start of Q2, if you remember that lap. You know, the quickest one basically in the wet conditions. So as we come out the pits, we've manually come out just to assess things on the outlap. And there's grip. There's grip. I'm not sliding around. You know, obviously, this is going to be a case of staying in the tram lines. We have to stay on the darker line, the racing line, to make sure we don't hit a puddle, you know, a wash of water there that only the wet tyre, the full wet tyre, can clear as we're a little bit wayward. But even with that snap of oversteer, the rear tyre did dip into the wet patch. We're still 6-7 tenths up. So this is looking like the 300 IQ gamble, choosing a different tyre compound when no one else would. Everyone else has stuck with the full wet. We're now 1.6 seconds up. We're down to 10th place, so we needed something like this anyway, but also the track was getting quicker, even on the full wets, it would seem. So this is just to get us an advantage, maybe on our own teammates with the situation we're in as we cross the line. Nearly 2 seconds gained gets us from P10 to P4. It's not even the front row there, but you know what? When you look at those times, we're 6 tenths quicker than Tramnits on the full wets. I think if we went full wets, we would not have been higher than P6. So even though, yeah, sure, we haven't got pole, we're not even on the front row, I still think that decision was a good one for us. That was an advantage for us because we would have been lower on the full wets. And it showed. We didn't, you know, it wasn't a horrible lap. And, you know, it's better than what Tramnits has done. So I think we can't complain. But Lando Norris on pole in his Mercedes, the newly upgraded Mercedes. That's going to be a big confidence booster for the Silver Arrows. Let's go to the race where I think it will be dry, though. So it could be a different story come race day.
Max Verstappen's first win for Red Bull on debut here. One of the great dramatic days in Formula One after the clash on the first lap of Hamilton and Rosberg. The entire crowd at turn 7 on their feet, cheering. An extraordinary race. It's always a treat to come back here for the Spanish Grand Prix. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he will start from pole position. And Alex Albon lines up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Behrman, Esteban Ocon, and Tramnits, Antonelli, Aaron, Gasly, and Carlos Sainz, Lawson, Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, and Piastri, Leclerc, Hulkenberg, Franco Colapinto, Gabriel Bortoletto, Maloney, Pepe Marti, Hadjar, and Jack Doohan. And now it's time to head down to the track. It's race day, it's going to be a thriller. I'm Alex Jakes, alongside me is Naomi Schiff. I love this moment in the weekend. Put us in their shoes right now. What are they feeling on the grid?
It's a very special time for the drivers. It's almost like everything around you slows down and you become hyper aware. So your nerves slightly go up, your adrenaline's going up. It's the perfect time to start focusing on your visualizations and preparing for the race. So you want to avoid distractions and really stay cool, calm, and focused.
Okay, radio check, radio check.
Alex Jakes mentioning the infamous 2016 Spanish Grand Prix in the commentary there, loading into the race where the two Mercedes came together. Verstappen won it. Well, Verstappen's up here, so there's maybe half a chance, and Tramnits is behind. But, you know, directly behind me on the grid. So let's hope there's not a repeat of 2016 Merc here for aarava Arch GP. There is a Merc on pole. That's pretty surprising and could be a new dynamic here as we get ready to go. Myself and Tramnits, you may notice, on the soft tyre, others on medium. So we're going aggressive because we know that this car in clean air has been unbelievable, being able to control the pace, control the tyre wear, and it's been a real great one. But in traffic, as we saw in race 1, can be beaten for sure by the Ferrari on a good day. Maybe now by Merc. We've also seen Verstappen in flurries being quick. And yes, we have been winning races consistently, but there is no guarantee of that. You know, race to race, we have to always be on it. So we've chosen softs. Tramnits' AI has also chosen softs. So I think we're together working and thinking in the same way, which is very, very good. I think the plan will be trying to make the most of the softs, sail off in the distance, and then control it from there. See if we have to make an extra stop. If we do, hope we have the pace. It might be a 2-stop for everyone, to be fair, with the slightly higher tyre wear or very confusing tyre wear we've been facing in Season 3 with that regulation change. As we now all get ready for 5 red lights for this Spanish Grand Prix, which always feels like the true start of the European portion of the season. Sorry, Miller. Lights out, and we're underway. Mercedes on pole, but he's slow. Albon can't quite get it. The Mercedes is cut across. The Ferrari's cut across. We're boxed in. Tyre on the grass. It's the classic camera angle shot down into turn 1, and Verstappen has managed to jump up to second. We've got a bit wayward on the rear end, and a second Ferrari is now ahead of us. Ocon is through. We're going to go for the kamikaze dive because I was a bit irked about losing that position, and in turn we've actually opened up the door for Tim Tramnitz. How on earth has he done that? He's overtaken Ocon, he's overtaken us again. My AI teammate really impressing us on my team in this F1 25 game, as it's Lando Norris that leads the way then in the Silver Arrow. Verstappen second place, Albon third, Tramnitz now ahead of us behind Ocon. Antonelli flying high, P7 for Haas. Sainz P8, disappointed from qualifying, but he's already made up a couple of positions then. Paul Aaron in the Williams P9 and Gasly P10 in the Renault, as you know, the second half of the top 10 continues to be incredibly competitive between so many different teams, which is awesome to see. At the sharp end though, it has been mostly Ferrari and us, but now Verstappen is mixing it up a little bit. The Merc leads, but for how long, as Albon makes a move up to second place, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later that both myself and Tramnitz can close up to Verstappen, because the Red Bull, it's been great over one lap. You know, Verstappen's got pole before, but it just doesn't have the race pace yet. I think Red Bull are really needing those Phase 4 upgrades, and McLaren, well, they need more than Phase 4 upgrades. They need a miracle. What's going on? P14-15 for Leclerc. It's now lap 3. Tramnitz makes a move. Albon makes a move. Mercedes, they were living the dream for 3 laps, but now the Ferrari leads, and Tramnitz makes a fantastic overtake on the Dutchman, the 5-time champion in this alternate F1 universe of ours, and he's up into P3, the German is, and Albon is first place. So actually, after all the chatter of maybe Merc making a difference, I get the sense that Tramnitz is on a mission, and it may just be once again us versus one Ferrari here, it seems, as we go from the left to the right. We faked Verstappen out, and we're up into P4, as we are also, by the way, of course, just using the softs. Like, we should be quicker, because we need to be, because if we don't make the most of this first stint, then the whole game plan's done. And so Tramnitz is executing that to an absolute T, as he's side by side with Norris now, keeps his foot in, gets ahead, and he's actually now put off Lando so much that we just get through the inside. That was great teamwork there. That was basically Tramnitz repaying the favour. You know, we helped him out, overtake Ocon on lap 1. That's essentially the same sort of thing. You know, he cut across in a way where Lando's AI clearly got off throttle, and we're able just to sail through into P3. So teamwork, you know, working an absolute dream. And now here he goes all the way from, what was it, P6 on the grid up to P1 on lap 6. Tramnitz, as an AI driver, leads this race ahead of Albon. We're in third, and now we can set our sights, and then it will be the game plan working. If we can get 1-2 and then just pull away on the softs, that's what we have to do. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble later in the race, because these guys could well go onto softs later on, as there are some movements for Leclerc and McLaren. He's up to P13, as Stroll is fighting Hulkenberg tooth and nail. Audi versus McLaren behind. It's Renault versus BMW, as Doohan gets Maloney and Hadjar and Bortoletto pretty close. So it's, you know, even though they may not be so competitive, Audi and BMW, it's nice to see they're actually getting a little bit of fighting going on now, as we get into the real heart of this third season on the game as Tramnit set to purple. We go for the move to get up into second place to make it a 1-2 for this team. Albon does really well, though, under brakes to try and come back at us, but we are going to get second place because we're on the softs. And right now, lap 7, the tyre wear isn't that bad. Lap 9, we've broken DRS, and it is just a case of trying to stretch our legs as much as we can, as instead Lando Norris is doing the opposite. He's just going backwards in this race. He's defended really well from Ocon there, to be fair, but it seems like he is eventually going to meet Verstappen, as the two Williams are neck and neck, and Tsunoda swapping with Paul Aaron. Tsunoda was a bit down the order earlier on in the race, so that's a good recovery for him, but both Williams will be buoyed that they're both in the points ahead of Oscar Piastri at the moment. As lap 9, we now, a little bit of a rear end wobble for Tramnit. We're catching up. Can we make a move for first place? We look at the tyre wear, though, on the right hand side. It's starting to creep up, and Tramnit's losing the back end there is a testament to that. He must be feeling the same sort of tyre wear. So but according to the strategy, we could make a one-stop work, I think, soft to hards. I just don't know about that. That seems a little bit audacious, but, maybe Season 3 with the upgrades, maybe that is the way. Well, it's not going to be any more because there's a red flag. That is going to change the entire race and throw a spanner into the works, because there's a Red Bull that is backwards, and there's a massive, massive pile up there, and, well, you can see why there's a red flag. Yeah, that was fair enough. But that's going to definitely, that's going to work against us a little bit, to be honest, in terms of our advantage, being on the soft, trying to pull away. Now we're all going to be together as, well, the Williams was pretty wayward as well. So everyone feeling tyre wear, and Piastri obviously feeling too much tyre wear and spins it. So it's a bit of a shame. Again, we're seeing Piastri just, even after the driver rating upgrade, just not performing at the level that you feel like we're seeing from him in real life, and also the mistake there, very uncharacteristic really in a way, but we've seen that a few times with other AI where, AI mistakes are a bit randomized on the game. It's not, down to who the actual driver is all the time. As now we're in a bit of a weird situation. I'm trying to decide what to do on strategy mid-race. The softs went 12 laps. I think we were near a pit stop window, but 12 laps on mediums, the medium should go more than 12 laps. So I think the mediums can go to the end. The game doesn't think so. The game thinks I need another stop. But the game didn't recommend me 2 stops before, at least, but that was on the hards, wasn't it? So we could go hards and go to the end, and the game would agree with me. I think we can go mediums, go to the end. The game doesn't agree with me, but based off the tyre wear we saw on the opening stint, I think our car, at least, can make it work. Our car has been very good on its tyres in clean air. Obviously, if we start fighting Tramnit, if we start fighting other cars, that's a big difference. But if we can have the same sort of vibe as we did in Stint 1, I think we can make a medium tyre work. And I reckon Tramnit might go hard and play it safe, because that was what the original strategy said. And as we load in, yeah, he's on the hard tyres as we go to 5 red lights for the second time this afternoon in Catalonia. Lights out, and we're underway from the red flag restart. It's a good start for us, of course, versus Tramnit on the medium. He's on the hards, but we're playing the team game and easing off into turn 1 to give him track position, because honestly, I feel like this should be a slam dunk that we overtake him eventually at a later point, and that later point will come literally a lap later, lap 15. We're gaining, but by the way, I've only just noticed behind the Ferrari going for the move, they're all on softs. What's going on? Are they all going for a 2-stop from this point onwards? As Albon goes round the outside, the Ferrari second, all of a sudden Ocon is also in play. Both Ferraris are attacking, but look at all these cars. All of them have chosen the soft compound. We're the only 2 cars. We were the only 2 cars at the start of the race to go softs, and now we're the only 2 cars not to go softs. As Albon overtakes us, there wasn't too much point fighting that because I had very little battery, so I may as well just recuperate the energy and come back at him on lap 17 to repass with DRS, of course. We don't even need to deploy that much battery to make the move as we commit to the right. Albon, bit of a squeeze there. I winced a little bit in the cockpit. I thought he was going to send us towards the grass, and we're still neck and neck through turn 3, and we have to use a little bit of battery to get into P1, but this is now a very peculiar race. I don't know what the game plan is for everyone else. Obviously, I'm trying to go to the end, I reckon, and I think Tramnitz is as well. These guys making another stop, they're going to have to. There's no way the softs can go all the way to the end from this point onwards. That would be incredible to see. So, I mean, I guess they're banking on having much better pace at the end of the race and maybe hoping our tyre wear on mediums and hards is bad enough as we repass Albon for the second time now. I think that is, and Tramnitz may just follow us through, even on the hards. Two-step harder compound. He nearly got through there and followed us through. DRS obviously being a massive aid. And on lap 20, I think this should be the slam dunk now. He's got the overspeed, and it is once again a 1-2 for this team with 13 laps to go. That pit stop, that second pit stop after this red flag, should be coming through for these guys. His Sainz now has come alive. That red flag has brought him back into it, and now he's the one ahead of Lando Norris. So Norris will be very annoyed by that, as Sainz was way down the order for most of this race. And Haas, it's a bit of a shame. They obviously lived the dream on qualifying day, but they're now both out of the points, and it's Leclerc recovering into the points, P9 there. Colapinto as well in the Aston Martin Honda doing well to get back up into some points after they were knocked out early or down the order in quali. As on lap 22, there you have it in the background, two cars coming in. It's a Merc, it's a Red Bull. They're making a second stop in this race, and so I think it is going to be just all Behrman versus Tramnitz, ourselves versus our own AI teammate, our own AI driver, and it's going to be a case of can we both hold our tyres to the end, and can the AI rivals of ours do anything to come back at us on the more aggressive two-stop. I mean, to be fair, it's the first time I've seen the AI be that aggressive on a two-stop. Most of the time, I'm begging them to be aggressive and try a two-stop like this, so I shouldn't complain about it. But in this context with the red flag, it does seem a little bit odd. If they were doing a two-stop anyway without a red flag, I would have been all about it. I would have been praising it, because you never see the AI do two stops enough, I feel like, once the tyre upgrades come in. But off the red flag, I just feel like it made sense to go onto hards and go to the end. And a lot of them were on mediums, so it's not like they, you know, couldn't have pulled that off. Like the tyre compound rule would have been met. As on lap 24, by the way, you may have just noticed there, I kind of let Tramnitz through on purpose because I've not got too much battery. I need to kind of do a little bit of work of just being sat behind him with DRS and regaining that battery. So I'm playing a little bit of chess with our own driver there, letting him run in the lead and kind of think like he's got it under control. But at this moment, I'm just hanging back a little bit out of dirty air, recuperating a bit of energy, and also making sure my mediums don't go off too quickly, fighting him and in dirty air. So we're trying to play this, you know, almost as realistically as they would in real life. You know, you back out, you kind of go again and re-engage, as Verstappen is in third place, fighting Albon, fighting Sainz, and there's fighting going all the way up and down the field as you got Doohan versus Piastri, Leclerc and Ocon together. I mean, Ocon way down the order now in the Ferrari, as on lap 30, we're gaining on Tramnitz, and we've got over 50%, 60% battery now. So this is exactly what I wanted to do, because now onto lap 31, we're over 70% battery. We've got the DRS. We can now re-engage in this fight with confidence as we go to the right. Tramnitz squeezes us. He hardly gives us any room to work with, as it was all a little bit too close for comfort as the two of us swap. But that was as fine as a margin as you want between teammates, as Verstappen leads the charge of all of these guys on another set of softs, by the way. So they've gone soft off the red flag. Unbelievable levels of aggression from the AI. I mean, fair play. I mean, if they can close up to us, it could actually maybe work. It depends on how much myself and Tramnitz fight, which I am wary of. So I'm trying not to fight him too much in the corners, and like this in a straight line I use a bit of battery to try and defend, but it's no use. He's got the overtake done. We're back down to second, and now Albon is the one that leads this train of himself, Verstappen and the two Mercs, but the gap is now down to under 5 seconds. At one point it was 10 seconds, so they are much quicker than both myself and Tramnit at this stage. But now, lap 32 towards the last lap, maybe it's a little bit too late, and I'm actually probably in prime position, being second on the road, going on to the last lap. But Tramnit, a bit slow in the last sector, opens up the door to maybe get the overtake done before the last lap as we lose the back end and we put a Tyre into the gravel. No, it's a little bit of a flick of oversteer, and we had to be very careful of not making contact with Tramnit, and in doing so, I just had to snap the car and let it roll through the gravel there. The Tyre icon is orange now, so you can see here, just like I made the decision to go on inters compared to wets and quali, and that was the better decision. In hindsight, I think Tramnit has decided better here in the race. The hard tyre was the better choice because I have hardly got much of an advantage going on mediums, and he's kept up with us, and now my tyres are probably more worn out than him. I mean, they definitely are, looking at the icon. And now on the last lap, we just can't get it. We can't get the overtake. My tyres are too worn. I couldn't even make the dive bomb that we did on lap 32. That was it, maybe. Lap 32, that moment there would have been it. We're going to have to accept second place, but we have to be very happy with a 1-2. It's our second 1-2 of this season, and we have to cherish these moments. We have to cherish these moments because there is no guarantee that this continues later on in this season. So we have to remember these days.
This has been truly magnificent. It's victory for Tim Tramnit.
It's one thing to put fast laps together, but to make these moves stick without losing too much time, that's real racecraft.
It's a big win from Tramnit. It's a big win. He deserved that, to be fair. That choice on hards, that was it. You know, like I said, just like I made the better call to go inters, he made the better call to go on hards. And it was the call that maybe was the simpler one, but I wanted to try and be aggressive. I wanted to basically do what we did in stint 1 and pull away, but the thing was we just didn't pull away on mediums. He actually had enough pace to keep us under bay on the hard tyre, so it's a fair enough win. And to be fair, in terms of the driver to driver, in terms of the inter-team battle, that dynamic, he kind of needs to break that momentum that we had with Behrman there. But we lead the way, of course, and we're trying to get as much of an advantage as we can because you saw Merc, getting ahead of us on paper. It's only a matter of time before they leap a bit more ahead, and then Red Bull come, and then McLaren come, and then we're in a tough spot. So we'll cherish races like this because it really may not be a reality in a couple of episodes' time. I really honestly am that scared. So guys, if you have enjoyed this one, hit the like button. Let me know your thought in the comments below. When you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.